All right, Shalom says we live.
Shalom.
All right, we live. Hey, Shalom. GMS Charlotte back at you with another midweek camp for the Holy Spirit, the Rakakadash. And before we get started, we want to give all the praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai Bahasham Rakakadash, Rakatah. All right, hey, Shalom, hey, double honors to the apostles and elders who taught us his truth. Double salutation to all you Akim out there laboring in the house of David, the elect, pushing his word with all truth, righteousness, and sincerity. Shalom to you, brothers, and shalom to the elect.
Shalom.
Hey, bring it out for me real quick. Let me my damn back. Salakia. Bro, 1 second. Hey, priest, open it up real quick. Let me go get my back brace.
Con.
Salakia.
Right. So, like I said, it's GMS Charlotte coming back with another Lord willing, edifying lesson to feed the elect of the nation of Israel. And pretty much, in this lesson, we wanted to go into, the parallels of, ancient Rome and America, because as we know, we see America following the same path that ancient Rome did. Okay. So before we, the brother comes back, we open up the lesson, we'll go ahead and just start with that Ecclesiastes 1.
Yeah, bring that out.
Ecclesiastes chapter 1 and verse 8. It says, all things are full of labor.
Verse 9, Salakia.
Okay. Ecclesiastes 1 and 9, it says, the thing that hath been is that which shall be, and that which is done is that which shall be done, and there is no new thing under the sun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's pretty much reincarnation. That's why they say history repeats itself. Go ahead.
Is there any?
Now, if I can add too, because they also say that kingdoms reincarnate too.
Verse 10. Is there anything whereof it may be said, see, this is new? It hath been already of old time, which was before us.
Because when you read this in the NLT, start back at verse 9, it says, history merely repeats itself. It has all been done before. Nothing under the sun is truly new. Sometimes people say, here's something new, but actually it is old. Nothing is ever truly new. And when you see the parallels of how America is being ran, this is literally the Roman Empire, all over again, man. All right. Because today we're in a more technological version of that Roman Empire, but nonetheless, the parallels are still the same. All right. You see it's the same, style buildings. You see buildings like the Capitol building, you got the modern day Coliseum where these sports are being held. All right, the government being ran the same. All these different things are showing that this is Rome all over again, man.
That's right. So in this video here, let's pull it up. So in this video here, it goes into how the American Empire is mirroring the ancient Roman Empire exactly the same. All right. So pretty much we're going to go through the parallels of what happened in Rome and what's going on to this very day. All right. This is why we brought out the scriptures in Ecclesiastes 1 and 8. All right. On how kingdoms, reincarnate. All right. The same things that led to the fall of Rome are eventually leading to the fall of this American Empire, which this video goes into pretty much great detail. So we'll get into that now. Unless bros want to add anything else.
Con, I did want to add something real quick, if I may.
Go ahead.
Because like brothers are saying, as we're going to go into this lesson, through the Holy Spirit, showing that ultimately America and the ancient Greco-Roman Empire have strong parallels, because this is that beast that was revived from that deadly wound. And it really just, further adds credence to the word of Yahweh Shemel Shai being indeed faithful and true, right? Because these things were foretold to take place, and it's happening. This is Daniel chapter 4. It says, this matter is by the decree of the watchers and the demand by the word of the holy ones, to the intent that the living may know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, and giveth it to whomsoever he will, and setteth up over it the basis of men. And I wanted to bring that out because ultimately, when we're going to go into this lesson, and show in this video, these parallels is staggering. You know, it's
Right.
not a mere coincidence that America and ancient Rome have strong parallels to this degree. Because like you had made mention of before, priest, you know, the fact that these kingdoms, they're reincarnated, right? But to see it in this fashion and where it's a literal revival that
Yeah.
mirrors ancient Rome to this level, it's by the decree of the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Showing you it's the same people that's ruined it. And, you know, Esau is a one-trick pony, so this is showing you that this has to be the same nation.
You said that's why. Hey, since Trump got into office and when Elon Musk was in office, what was the spirit that was being pushed? The revival of Rome. This is it. This is the new Rome, right?
Yep.
Just going to the video.
According to the congressional budget, U.S. debt is now projected to increase by 63% within the next decade, becoming the highest recorded debt in all of human history. And as the dollar has lost roughly 90% of its purchasing power, the top 1% alone now hold more wealth than America's entire working class, raising the question, how long can a nation survive as it continuously bankrupts its own people? While America may not fully resemble the empires of the past, as it lacks direct control over other nations and is not ruled by a single emperor, the global reach of its unmatched military power, economic dominance, and cultural influence hidden behind the invisible thumb of the dollar has placed the United States on the same inevitable trajectory that has defined every superpower throughout history, most notably seen in the internal decay that marked the fall of Rome. Following decades of military conflict, political divide, and immense wealth inequality that led to the collapse of the Roman Republic, Emperor Augustus ushered in a period of extraordinary peace and economic stability, where under his rule, he redistributed wealth by using his own money to purchase land for veterans, increased taxes on Rome's elites to fund one of the earliest pension systems, restored civic pride by employing tens of thousands of Romans to famously transform Rome from a city of brick into one of marble, and provided millions of Romans grain to sustain their families, emphasizing how prosperity is rooted in long-term investment and public stability. However, following Rome's catastrophic defeat at the Battle of Teutoburg Forest, the first structural cracks in the empire's foundation began to emerge, as it profoundly altered how Roman citizens perceived their own strength and the true intentions of their power, signaling just how damaging disastrous campaigns of control and influence can be on decades of prosperity. Following the death of Augustus, Emperor Tiberius adopted a more conservative ideology by significantly reducing government spending, despite the Roman economy's dependence on state intervention, reigniting widespread inequality, unemployment, and crumbling infrastructure. But the most defining moment of his reign came after he demanded creditors to invest heavily in Italian land, which sparked a massive surge in credit, drove interest rates higher, inflated a real estate bubble, and ultimately collapsed Rome's housing market, where this fallout also triggered defaults and closures throughout Rome's largest financial institutions, bringing wealthy families to ruin.
And these are the same things that are going on now.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
The job market's finished, the economy, right? Hyperinflation, potential civil wars brewing, all of that. Same things that collapsed the Roman Empire. Same things are happening here.
If I'm not mistaken, it said something about them investing in Italian land that mess with the economy. Is that not what they're doing with them investing in these different wars with Ukraine and
Yep.
what's the other one? Gaza, I think.
Israel.
Israel, yes, like it.
Paralyzing trade, driving up unemployment, and eventually forcing Tiberius into a massive no-interest bailout to rescue the banks and elite creditors, revealing how the cost of concentrated wealth and over-leveraged economies ultimately fall on the public. And while the empire eventually recovered, this moment marked the early ignition of a slow compounding decay that would define the fall of Rome. The centuries that followed were plagued by excessive spending, hedonistic political leaders, unprecedented currency debasement, a lack of internal investment, outsourced labor, endless war, immense wealth inequality, and a slow erosion of moral fabric, where after periods of
Hey, you heard all that. The slow erosion of moral fabric, the decay of the economy, the people, right? Same thing.
severe economic collapse or civil war, a new leader would emerge, promising Res Publica Restuta, to restore Rome to its former greatness. Emperor Severus, for example,
Yeah, so that's the point I wanted to make right there. Let me go back. Have we not heard this before?
wealth inequality, and a slow erosion of moral fabric, where after periods of severe economic collapse or civil war, a new leader would emerge, promising Res Publica Restuta, to restore Rome to its former greatness.
See, same spirit.
Make America great again.
Make America great again. It's the same spirit. All right. Can we get that real quick? Jeremiah 51. Babylon can't be healed. Right.
I'll grab it.
And I got to pull it up on the screen here. All right, you got it up.
I saw Jeremiah 51 and verse 7. And it says, Babylon hath been a golden cup in the Lord's hand that made all the earth drunken. The nations have drunken of her wine, therefore the nations are mad.
Yep, go ahead.
Babylon is suddenly fallen and destroyed. Howl for her, take balm for her pain, if so be she may be healed.
Take balm for her pain, if so she may be healed. Is that not the spirit that's being pushed? All right. Build back better. Right. What was the other one? It was Build Back Better, and there was another one.
Again.
Make America Great Again. Right.
Make America healthy again.
Make America healthy again. All these themes that are being pushed in the spirit to cause that revival of America, you know. Go ahead.
Verse 9, we would have healed Babylon, but she is not healed. Forsake her, and let us everyone go into his own country, for her judgment reacheth unto heaven, and is lifted up even to the skies.
Yeah, so pretty much in the spirit, as we see it, this place is about to fall. All right. The judgment of Babylon have reached unto the heavens, man. All right. So we're at the point where we're literally, tottering on the collapse of America's society, economy, and everything else in between. All right. So that's the time that we're in right now. Brothers, want to add something in there real quick?
I got one for you.
I have something. This is 1 Thessalonians chapter 5 and verse 3. It says, for when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them, as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape. So that sentiment that America will be able to be brought back to its quote unquote glory days, right? That's that spirit of peace and safety that's being promoted in the streets of Babylon. But we already understand the will of the Lord is to ultimately throw down America. The judgment is already written. Right. So despite all of this pursuit to try and continue in his hegemony, he's ultimately going to get casted down, right? As the scriptures speak about how I have seen Satan crash as lightning, right? So ultimately, he's on a downward trajectory, regardless of what these people are trying to promote, this quote unquote spirit of hope. It's saying the same thing as we're making the parallels through the Holy Spirit happen with ancient Rome. And it's nothing but ruins.
Right. Yep. Going down the same path as his ancient ancestor, right? All right. I got let me read unless you had anything else. I want to grab this Daniel 7 and 7. All right.
I think Quantum off had something.
Yeah, so I'll go ahead and bring it out. Salakia.
It's Nahum 3 and 19. It reads, there is no healing of thy bruise. Thy wound is grievous. All that hear the bruit of thee shall clap the hands over thee. For upon whom hath not thy wickedness passed continually? And much like the pagan Roman Empire, right? They spread their influence throughout the earth, right? Or throughout that region, right? We see America picking up where they left off, man. Right. So that the bruise, right? The destruction, the sickness, right? That is taken up, that the same fashion that took upon Rome, we're watching it start to decay and degrade, this Babylonian American society, man.
That's right.
If I can add real quick, because you can tell that these are the same Edomites that was back during the Roman time, because if I'm not mistaken, the main language of Rome was Latin, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. So when you have the US dollar, you have that Latin phrase on the back, which is annuit conceptus, or how you say, if I'm saying it correctly, and nuvis ordo seclorum,
right,
which both appear on the reverse side. Annuit coeptis translate to he favors or has favored our undertakings, or providence favors our undertaking, while novos ordo seclorum means a new order of the ages. These phrases, along with el pluribus unum, are part of the Great Seal of the United States. But pretty much these Latin sayings are Esau's ways of him telling you that they're not coming out of power, that they say they're going to rule forever. So as the scriptures we're bringing out, they're trying to, revive America to the former greatness that they once had. But we know that the Heavenly Father, his plan is to pretty much destroy this place. So I just real quick, just going into that mindset. This
Yep.
is Psalms 49:11. Their inward thought is that their houses shall continue forever, and their dwelling places to all generations. They call their lands after their own names. But going off of what Tyler one quoted back in that was the Malachi 1:4 that you quoted, that the Lord said that though they build, I shall throw down, because the Lord, even though Esau is making himself think the Most High is with these plans, the Lord is really going to destroy this place, man. You know, you got it.
I have something to add if I could.
Go ahead, bro.
Got us on the AI overview because that video mentioned something about pretty much the decadence and the social corruption. But that's the AI overview. It says moral decadence in a kingdom signifies a decline in ethical standards, in which ancient Rome had a decline in ethical standards and the corruption and decay and stuff like that. Same thing we're seeing with America. It says a decline in ethical standards, leading to widespread corruption, social decay, and a weakening of societal structures. So pretty much the societal structures going into the social constructs, the things that essentially held this place together, they're being done away with. That's why it says in Isaiah the 19th chapter, pretty much the Egyptian going to be against the Egyptian, because one major social construct is that conglomeration, which the Lord is doing away with that. But it says this can manifest as a loss of integrity, an increase in vices, and a discard for traditional values, ultimately threatening the stability and well-being of the kingdom. And that's why scriptures like Isaiah 13 and verse 1 says the burden of Babylon, because that word burden goes into utterance and chiefly a doom. So it's nothing but doom and gloom prepare for this place.
That's right. That's right. And like we said earlier, this America is in the spirit of the revival of Rome. And I'm going to read that in Daniel 7:7 here. Can somebody read for me?
Okay. So
you got it, bro. Go ahead.
Okay. Daniel 7:7. After this, I saw in the night visions, and behold, a fourth beast.
Yeah, the fourth beast represents ancient Roman Empire. Go ahead.
Dreadful and terrible and strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth.
Yeah, representing pretty much the Roman army. All right, and they were known for the use of the steel, of the iron. All right, they had a massive military force. Go ahead. And remember Esau's blessing is the sword. All right, consider that too. Go ahead.
It devoured and brake in pieces and stamped the residue with the feet of it, and it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns.
Yeah, so what made the Roman Empire diverse from all the other beasts before, they had the ancient empires before it had a system called what was it called? The Ascension of the Throne. Read that to me real quick,
Okay.
and I'll pull it up as well.
It's the term ascension to the throne. It says ascending the throne means to formally assume the position of a monarch, either by inheritance or by taking control of the kingdom. It signifies the beginning of a new reign and the assumption of royal power and authority. This can happen after the death of a previous ruler or through other circumstances where a person gains the right to rule.
Yeah, so pretty much that's what made the Roman Empire diverse from the other beasts. All right, because they had a Senate house, they had a voting system, right, where they so-called elected their leaders in positions of power. All right, so their way was different from the original way, so to speak. Right now, I just want to read this real quick, because even I did a lesson on this before, but even the whole process of voting, it all goes back to ancient Rome. All right, so everything, all the customs that are exercised here in America, Babylon, all go back to that Greco-Roman influence, man. The architect, everything, man. All right, but anyway, this is from learnancientrome.com, and it goes into where do citizens vote in ancient Rome. And I just want to read these two paragraphs. All right, because we're talking about what made this beast diverse from all the other beasts, right? It says political power plays. The Roman Forum was a place of political power political power plays and leaders. Many political players tried to entice voters to sway the vote to their favor and in their favor. The more money they had, the more influence they had over potential voters, right? Do we not see this going on in America? All right, how so-called politicians and whatnot get bought out by certain party members and shit like that, right? Backdoor deals, same thing, right? Pretty much what you have now. Trump was his whole campaign basically was dedicated to the technocrats, the billionaires, bro. Right? They're the ones that had the power over the election, if you will, right? But it says the more influence they had over potential voters, candidates and civil officials also use bribes and promises of favors to beckon people to a positive outcome on their vote. Same thing goes on now, right? It says elected officials held a lot of power in Rome. They took numerous responsibilities as choosing who would go to war, deciding what laws to pass, and many other tasks. All these activities took place in the Roman Forum, and each vote contributed to the shaping of Rome. All right, the point process of voting says most of the voting processes in the Roman times were secreted, heavily guarded, and conducted carefully and orderly. Voting took place in Curia, which was the Senate house at the Roman Forum. It says a ballot box was set up in the middle of the Senate house, right? Made by two lictors, bodyguard to ensure order and safety. When it was time to cast a vote, citizens would come up one at a time to the lictors and put their ballot out of a chest. They would go to the ballot box, place their ballots in the box, and leave. After all votes were placed, the lictors would count the ballots, declaring the results. All right, so it's the same thing. All right, but the point is that this all is tied into the revival of Rome. Let's read on. Just want to bring that out. Go ahead. Verse 8, Daniel.
May I get a quick precept, Zaquan, if I may?
Yeah, go ahead.
Because I just wanted to land back on that point about the corruption of the voting system,
right?
Because this system is what pretty much establishes the leaders.
Right.
This is Proverbs chapter 28 and verse 16 in the Amplified Bible translation. It says, "A leader who is a great oppressor lacks understanding and common sense, and his wickedness shortens his days. But he who hates unjust gain will be blessed and prolong his days." You see? So as we see these leaders, like you said, Zaquan, this whole recent administration under Trump, this just pretty much ushered in these technocrats to where these elites are planning to establish this NWO. As the Spirit has been going into in numerous lessons and epistles, focusing and harping on these people that are in these positions of influence, they're bought and paid for. And their whole intent is to try and usurp the authority of the Most High and try to actually accomplish that ill thought in their mind that they're going to be gods on earth, right? But that's setting a cap as to how far they can go, because this is the exact same thing that they did back then in ancient Rome, setting up these leaders that were corrupt, and they weren't actually favorable leaders to actually lead the people to have a prolonged kingdom. It's no different.
Because if I can add to that, because that's why in the laws it talks about a judge. That's essentially the leaders. They weren't supposed to be taken by different bribes and stuff like that. When it comes to positions like that, the person in power should have enough integrity not to be bought out.
Facts.
But I'm trying to find that scripture that talks about the two wings dealing with the
Revelations.
Yeah, we're gonna get that. We're gonna get that.
Okay.
That's the Spirit. I was trying to find a scripture about what you were just saying about pretty much how when a man taketh a bride, he becomes corrupt.
Yeah, I'm trying to look for that one too.
I got one real quick too.
Yeah, if you can find it, because that's a good scripture, man. And it's the same shit that goes on here amongst so-called American politics, man. All right. None of these people have the favor of the people in mind at all. Right? Most of them are bought and paid out by APEC, the small hat offices, all of that, man. So they're all in there for specific agendas,
I got one. I don't know if this is the one that you're talking about, but this is Deuteronomy chapter 16, verse 19. Let me get in the King James. Hold on.
Yeah, you can use that.
Deuteronomy 16:19, thou shalt not wrest judgment, thou shalt not respect persons, neither take a gift, for a gift doeth blind the eyes of the wise and pervert the words of the righteous.
Right, and you know what? A good scripture that I was thinking to add on to that is about Habakkuk 1:4, where it talks about pretty much the righteousness is corrupt, the law is slacked.
Yeah.
Right, and the reason because of that is because the leaders are corrupt. Right, righteousness doesn't go forth, basically. Right, you have some Slaki.
I think I found out what you're talking about. This is Exodus 23:8. It says, and thou shalt take no gift, for the gift blindeth the wise and perverteth the words of the righteous. Was it that one?
Yeah, that's a good one too. All right, but what the fruit of that is what? Corrupt judgment. Right. Now I want to just read that in NLT, that same verse you brought out, Deuteronomy 16:19. It says in NLT, it says, you must never twist justice, right? Or show partiality, neither accept the bride, for brides blind the eyes of the wise and corrupt the decisions of the godly. See that? And as a result of all of that, this is why America's under a corrupt and horrible leadership. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's go to the matter of fact, let's keep reading. Let's read down to Daniel 7 and 8. Then we get that Revelation 13 and 11.
Kind of, if I could add to that, because the whole reason why that led to that fall, because a lot of the people that try to come into that that position, they may start out coming into it with righteous means, but over time, like I said, Esau will use that money and that that power to pretty much try and lean on them to make it to where they eventually fall to their whims. Because when you look in the different Roman government positions, it was a lot of nefarious means, people killing other judges to get up in that seat and different things like that. A lot of the different seats in the Senate, presidents, all that, they were killing each other so they can get in those positions of power.
Yep. Exactly. All right. Let's read on in that verse.
Okay. Daniel 7 and 8. I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn, before whom there were three of the first horns plucked up by the roots.
Right. So that little horn representing America, all right, which all ties into what we're bringing out here, the revival of Rome. All right. It says there came up among them a little horn, before there were three of the first horns plucked up by the roots. The three of the first represent Spain, the British, and the French. All right, who the three main shareholders of America. That's why you had those American Revolutionary Wars. Yep. Right, the Edomites were fighting over basically the land and the resources of America at that time. Right. Go ahead. I read on.
And behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of man, and a mouth speaking great things.
Right. So this horn that was raised up representing America, Babylon, is controlled by Esau. Right. And it says his eyes were like a man and his mouth speaking great things. Right. So that man representing Esau in power and speaking great things, going into pretty much his science, his technology, right, his ideology, these things that are pushed over Yahweh Shem Shah, right? So that's from there. Before we go back to the video, I want to make one more point, well, a couple more points in the scriptures, and we'll go back to the video. Let's go to verse. Let's jump up to verse, same chapter. Let's jump up to verse 19. All right, just making that point, the revival of Rome, tying it back to America. All right, so this is Daniel 7 and 19. You can read it out.
It says, then I would know the truth of the fourth beast, which was diverse from all the others.
As we just explained, right? What made the ancient Roman Empire diverse from the other nation, the other beasts? Go ahead.
Exceeding dreadful, whose teeth were of iron, and his nails of brass, which devoured, break in pieces, and stamped the residue with his feet.
Keep going.
And of the 10 horns that were in his head, and of the other which came up, and before whom 3 fell, even of that horn that had eyes and a mouth that spake very great things, whose look was more stout than his fellows.
Yeah, because America, right? These Edomites, especially these Edomites here, they're proud. They're the proudest,
Mhm.
out of the rest of their counterparts, man. Right? Dealing again with that little horn that came up. Go
Mhm.
ahead.
I beheld, and the same horn made war with the saints and prevailed against them.
Yeah, see, and that same horn, which is America, made war with the saints and prevailed them, because this is how we were put under captivity right here in America, Babylon, man.
Yep.
That's what happened. Jeremiah 50 and 33, Judah and Israel went into captivity together. All that held them fast refused to let them go. You have somebody you want to add in there real quick?
I didn't have it.
All right, cool. Let's go to Revelation 13 and we'll go back to the video. We just want to hit them points, just tying the revival of Rome with America. All right. You got it out.
Did you want to get that revelation we was talking about earlier? Or you still holding that for later?
No, we got it right here.
Okay, con.
Yep.
Revelation 13 and 11. And I beheld another beast coming out of the earth, and had two horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon.
Yeah, the two horns, which is basically that Roman two-party system. What was it called? The plebeians and the patricians.
Yep.
Right. And what do you have today? The Democrats and the Republicans. All right. That same system it goes back to Rome. Right.
Mhm.
And what's heavy, as it said, is he spake as a dragon. What are the things that are coming into fruition now? All right. You got the beast system. Brothers done lessons about how they're getting ready to pretty much shut the internet down. The verifications, right? That dude, what's the Edomite name? Sam Altman. He just introduced to the bankers the World ID, where you got to scan your eyes to have access to anything. Okay, so all these things where it goes into how you speak like as a dragon, it's about to be draconian times, man. They're getting ready to lock shit down. You're gonna have verification and all the components of the beast, basically, right?
Right. Because if I can add to that, because speaking of the two-party system, they try to put it like they're for different agendas, but what we seen with the last three different terms dealing with Trump's first one, Biden, and then Trump again, they all laid the foundation for the next one to come into place. So even though Biden was supposed to be the Democrats, and they put the front on like they're against the Republicans, all the things that we're seeing now that Trump's doing, he's building off of what Biden had did.
Right.
Like he put the whole the CHIP Act, and that led up to what we seeing now with Trump passing that Genius Act, and now what's the coin? Was it stable coin or whatever?
Yep, stable coin.
Which is pretty much him going against what he said in his first term about how he wasn't going to bring forth a digital currency to pretty much go against that talking point that Biden was doing by bringing this in, and then now he's doing the exact same thing that Biden was beginning to do.
Yeah.
So just showing you that, like you said, they spake as a lamb, but now they're speaking as that dragon more and more, because this draconian system is showing you that they're going ahead with this new world order.
There you go. And just to add on, not to rant, but remember when Trump, I think it was before he got in office the second time, he said that he wasn't going to allow a digital system, a digital payment system or something. He said he was going to be against that. But even today, I saw in the news that I think Apple invested like $500 billion to like reshape the economy in these times to come something like that around the line. So he's all about it,
Yeah.
You
That's all that stable coin shit is a CBDC.
That's it. You got it out. You read on.
Yep. Verse 12, and he exercised of all the power of the first beast before him.
Yeah, he exercised of all the power of the first beast before him, which goes back to ancient Rome.
Mm-hmm.
All right, go ahead.
And called it the earth, and them which dwell therein, to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed.
Right. So those same principles, those same systems of ancient Rome are being pushed now. Go ahead.
And, excuse me. And he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men.
Right, because Esau's blessing again was the sword. All right. And part of that sword is he was able to make fire come down from heaven. This is why he has the nuclear missiles. This is why he has the satellites equipped with laser beams. He has the what was the weapon that fried Hawaii and all them other places?
Direct energy weapons.
Yeah, the direct energy weapons, right? Those are real. All right. He has that power to make that fire to come down from heaven in the sight of men. Go ahead.
It says that he do great wonders so that he make a fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men, and deceiveth them that dwell on the faith on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast.
What is he doing now? What is he doing now? Part of those miracles that he's doing in the sight of the beast. He got this technology, the left hand. All right. The chip is being pressed. All right. The like we talked about, the world ID, the global surveillance, right? All these different, miracles in this false technology, if you will. Go ahead.
All right, the promise of immortality.
Yep.
Go ahead, bro.
God's lucky. Because when you read that in the NLT, it says he pretty much they did this on behalf of the first beast, right?
Ooh.
So they're doing this because it's the same agenda, right? They're moving in the same way that the Roman Empire would have if they had the technology to have.
Yes.
Yeah, because I can add to that, because you're seeing, like, when we read the first Maccabees dealing with Antiochus, he was trying to bring in that everybody being one people. This is that new world order. This is they're finally trying to do that what they couldn't do back then, because the whole point of all these people that was in the position to try to bring in one world order, they couldn't track everybody at one time. So now they're doing this with this technology, showing you that Esau is at his peak of pride because he feels like he has the ability to finally obtain what other tyrants couldn't, as you heard that quote from Yuval Noah Harari say.
Yeah, that's heavy, brother. And this is him performing a modern day way of branding through the chip.
Exactly.
So now they can see everything, they can track everything. Hey, the wearables, right? RFK, the wearables. Hey, that's leading to the chip, of course. But what that chip is going to do, they can track your vitals, your thoughts, your dreams. This man is literally going to be God over you, man. This is why it's so important for you to not take that mark, right? Not the rent, Go ahead, bro.
Yeah, one more thing just to add to that, because you mentioned the branding, because both Greece and Rome both had a branding system. Like Rome, their branding system was that I forgot the exact name of it, but the ivory leaf thing that they would wear, they would get that branded on them, to prove that they were loyal to those Romans, man. So just showing you that this is what their modern day form of branding is, which is that digital oil that comes in the form of that RFID chip.
Man, you got somebody tell someone? All right, we'll read on.
Back at verse 14, it says, "And deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth that they shall make an image to the beast, which had the wound by a sword and did live."
Which had the wound by a sword and did live. How's it living, man? This revival of Rome we see today that's being exercised through America, NATO, and the EU.
Yep.
See? And it said that they should make an image to the beast. That's that Roman system that we just talked about, man. Now it's been modernized, right? Now, like you said, the branding system was always a custom of Greece and Rome, but now they have an updated version of it, which is going to be the chip.
Yep.
Now they can watch and control and see everything, man. You can't say this is the same spirit coming back, man.
And then to add to that even more, what was Elon Musk saying during the whole presidential run all the way up until Trump won? He said Rome's not going to fall again. He said this is the new Rome. So let's prove that.
Come on, man.
The so-called Roman salute, that he was doing. So that's going to show you this is Rome 2.0, man.
There you go, man. Hey, that's why Yahweh Shai, it's key to understand why Yahweh Shai said, "Blessed are your eyes for they see, and your ears for they hear."
Yep.
All right. There's a reason why he said that. You got many men, as he said in that same chapter, many righteous men and kings and whatnot desire to see those things that you see and have not seen them, man.
Yeah.
Niggas is still arguing that Babylon is in Rome. You know, that America is not Babylon, you know, it's over in Africa somewhere, you know, like people can't see, right? But anyway, Salakia, let's finish it out, get back to the video. Let's read down to 18, you know.
Okay. It says, verse 15, and he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed.
Right.
And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads,
which we know to be the charagma, all right, which is the chip. And it said he causes all. So this is everybody. Okay. Again, him having access and control over everybody. He causes all. That word cause, it goes back to being made into law. So this is what we've been prophesying about. Eventually, that he's about to speak like a dragon, and this chip is going to be made mandatory for you to function in life. That's what we're talking about. Keep reading on.
Point, verse 17, and that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name.
Yeah, and that's what these camps continue to skip over.
Yep.
Right? Nobody but us has addressed how you're going to be able to buy and sell with that mark, with that chip. Everybody else dances around it. How are we going to buy and sell again with Christianity, the white woman, the marking, how you raise your right hand and you stick your left foot out, whatever. How are we going to buy and sell with that? Right? Go ahead, Doc.
That's a major aspect of society, to controlling, commerce, buying and selling. All right. And that's why a lot of that was one of the reasons why a lot of people rebelled against Rome back in the ancient world, because Rome was taxing the shit out of people, and a lot of them just said fuck it and rebelled. But in today's time, they're going to control it to where you can't even rebel, because if you don't, you're not going to be, if you don't take part of the way that this society is going via getting that chip put inside of you. Like I said back in verse 15, the latter, you're not going to be able to participate in society. That's why it says, as many as will not worship the image of the beast should be killed, because you're going to be X'd out from society. That's the true definition of being off the grid. Yeah. So buying and selling, that's the selling point of why this MOTB is so crucial, and why the warning is not to take it, because a lot of these stupid people that's playing with it, they can't get around that aspect, because it's going to come to a point, as we're seeing these different stores setting up with the hand scanners, they're doing away with cash. Soon it's going to be, just not even swiping the card. It's going to be just, you walk in, like it's I think Whole Foods does it, Amazon Fresh, and a couple other stores where I think Dollar General, one of them stores, they just now introduced it to where when you walk in, you don't even have to scan nothing. You just put your stuff in the basket and then you leave out. And as you're doing that, it's already, deducting from your account, man.
Yeah. Yeah, this is what I was talking about. We ain't got to go into it, but just reading the headline, OpenAI CEO Sam Altman pitches eyeball scanning world ID to bankers. See? That's where it's at. These are the components of the beast. Verification, scanning your eyes, scanning your wrists. Hey, this is some dystopia shit, man.
Shit. What was that one that they was doing with them Africans where they had to scan their eye? You remember what that was called?
Oh, nah, don't.
I think that's it. World ID.
That was it? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I got a precept.
Go ahead.
So Psalms 21 and verse 8. It says, thine hand shall find out all thine enemies. Thy right hand shall find out those that hate thee. Because ultimately, Esau Edom is being exposed. Right. Verse 9, thou shalt make them as a fiery oven in the time of thine anger. The Lord shall swallow them up in his wrath, and the fire shall devour them. Talking about, the ICBM nuclear missiles, is essentially going to destroy Esau Edom's hegemony. Verse 10, the point.
Right.
Their fruit shalt thou destroy from the earth, and their seed, verse 11 is the point, but I'm going to read down. It says, and their seed from among the children of men, for they intended evil against thee. They imagined a mischievous device, which they are not able to perform. And pretty much, how the stage is being set, with the open AI or the world ID. I seen something the other day, to where, like you're riding the interstate and they pretty much can look into your car, and they pretty much can use AI to pinpoint where you're going to be at at a specific time, to where a state trooper is at, and they can pull you over. So all of this is being pretty much bottlenecked into the NWO with that Karagma. But
right.
in the end, Esau Edom isn't going to be able to get his enterprise fully off the ground.
Con. It was called a world coin, because what it was, they would get them Africans to scan their retinas to that thing, and they was giving them $50 in cryptocurrency.
There you go. Nope. We finish it out and we'll go back to the video.
Revelation 13:18. Here's wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666.
Yeah, 666 chai size stigma. All right. And you gotta have the wisdom to be able to see what Apostle John was breaking down, man. All right. And many don't have the wisdom to see it. This is why they're saying everything outside of it being the chip. Right. But anyway, let's go back to the video. Matter of fact, let me close it out because it might shut the audio off. So let me just go back in.
I want to correct myself. The device that they was using to scan the people's eyes was called the orb, and WorldCoin was the currency that they was giving those Africans to do that. So they said the whole goal was to use this to scan everybody's eyes on the earth so that they can get that biometric data.
There you go. There's no denying this thing, man. There's no denying it. Let me pull it back up. We stopped at the part where he said they wanted to make Rome better again, pretty much, right? Here we go.
Erosion of moral fabric, where after periods of severe economic collapse or civil war, a new leader would emerge, promising Respublica Restuta, to restore Rome to its former greatness. Emperor Severus, for example, ironically minted coins bearing the title Restutor Urbis, or restorer of the city, despite devaluing Rome's currency even further by flooding the markets with the newly minted coinage and accelerating inflation, where the Roman poet Juvenal would later summarize Rome's internal decay, writing, "If the old emperor had been surreptitiously smothered, the same crowd in the moment would have hailed their new Augustus. They shed their sense of responsibility long ago, when they lost their votes and the bribes. The mob that used to grant power, high office, the legions, everything, curtails its desires and reveals its anxieties for two things only: bread and circuses. For if you give them food and entertainment, they will never revolt." And while Rome believed each crisis was only temporary, every bailout, every short-term fix, and every self-announced political savior.
Hey, you notice how ever since this stuff started going on, distractions have been crazy, right? It's been going to a next level. All these scandals and controversy shit going on in Hollywood, all this stuff to keep people's eyes caught up in the things that don't matter, right?
Right.
Meanwhile, behind the scenes, he's getting ready to fucking crash the dollar. He's getting ready to set up the system right under the people's nose. Civil war gonna break out. Go ahead, Alex.
If you watch the Gladiator 1 and 2, they talked about that. That was the whole reason behind the Colosseum. The gladiators and all that, because that was to keep the people's minds off of what was going on in Rome. The different crises or whatnot.
Niggas been talking about Shador Sanders gonna play on Friday. I don't give a fuck about that. All this stuff happening in the world, man. And niggas' concerns is how Shador gonna perform on Friday against the Panthers.
Yeah, you got that. You got them talking about partying, how you say it, partying Diddy. Different stupid shit that's in the news, man. Like that's not important. Let's talk about what's going on with the important stuff.
What was it? Ghislaine Maxwell says she testified, against the Epstein list and all that.
True. They gonna kill her.
Yeah, it's been real wild, man. Right?
Watch another celebrity just die randomly.
Come on, man.
Only pushed the empire further down a path it could never return from, a pattern that would later reemerge in the rise of the United States. Since officially becoming the world's leading superpower in 1945, America's forward-thinking industrial investments, combined with being the only major power not forced to rebuild after the war, ushered in a period of immense prosperity. But with a growing appetite for endless war and implicit control, the United States created a perfect condition for a new ideology to flourish, one that slowly shifted power away from the people and into the hands of the corporations and governmental institutions, where as a result, we abandoned the accountability once demanded by leaders like JFK or the moral warnings of Martin Luther King Jr.
And I submit that if we can spend $35 billion a year to fight an ill-considered war in Vietnam and $20 billion to put a man on the moon, our nation can spend billions of dollars to put God's children on their own 2 feet right here on earth.
Instead, we placed our trust into slogans, most notably Ronald Reagan's 1980 campaign, "Let's make America great again," forcing the nation to live in a state of endless remembrance.
Wow, right?
These niggas aren't even original.
Man. Right?
Damn.
Hey, they're always in the spirit of trying to revive this fucking place, man. You know?
Mhm. No healing of the bruise.
No hill. See? Right? You can't reverse what the Lord has already done. Man. You can't disannul, right? Let me get that. Salaki. Can you get that Isaiah 14? Right? Just read it off real quick. Isaiah 14, where it talks about you can't disannul what the Lord has already established, roughly paraphrasing.
God, I got it. This is can I actually start up a few verses?
Come.
This is Isaiah chapter 14, verse 24. It says, "The Lord Yahweh of hosts hath sworn, saying, Surely as I have thought, so shall it come to pass. And as I have proposed, so shall it stand. That I will break the Assyrian in my land, and upon my mountains tread him underfoot. Then shall his yoke depart from off them, and his burden depart from off their shoulders." As we know, the modern day Assyrian is America, right? So the Lord is telling us, right, that he has, a purpose against America to pretty much destroy it, right? Verse 26, this is the purpose that is proposed upon the whole earth, and that is the hand that is stretched out upon all the nations. Verse 27, the point, for the Lord Yahweh of hosts has proposed, and who shall disannul it? And his hand is stretched out, and who shall turn it back? Right. So ultimately, the motive of what Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai has in motion is to pretty much throw down America. I mean, it ain't nothing you could do against that.
Nothing.
Rather than deliberate planning, effectively selling out future generations in pursuit of a ghost from the past. And while history may not repeat itself, it often rhymes, with the United States almost perfectly replicating the key events of the early Roman Empire. However, a substantial differentiator lies in the simple fact.
See that? And that's why we opened up with was it Ecclesiastes 1 and 8 and 9?
Mm-hmm.
Right? There's nothing new under the sun, all right? The spirit of Rome has been reincarnated through America, man. And it's going out the same. The way it's going out parallels exactly the same. This is the point what he's making here. All right.
That despite Rome severely debasing its currency, it remains largely tied to tangible value. When Augustus transitioned Rome from a republic and into an empire, the denarius contained roughly 98% of silver, where it took nearly 300 years for it to fall to just 0.5%. Where since the US removed the dollar from gold with the collapse of the Bretton Woods Agreement in 1971, the dollar has lost 88% of its purchasing power and roughly 99% of its value when compared to gold, forcing the nation to enter the highest levels of debt in human history, backed by a currency rooted entirely in trust. A trust that is now deteriorating at an unprecedented rate as the country continues to march towards moral bankruptcy. And while Rome may offer the most
With scripture, Habakkuk, what, 2 and 6? Right? Let me get that real quick. Those heavy pledges, right?
I got it.
Yeah,
You got it? Go ahead, Op.
Okay, this Habakkuk 2 and 6. Shall not all these take up a parable against him, and a taunting proverb against him, and say, Woe to him that increaseth that which is not his, how long, and to him that ladeth himself with thick clay.
You got it, Op.
Right, so like you said, those heavy pledges going into that debt. All right, America is suffering that same thing because when you go into that word thick clay, it's I forgot how you said the word.
Go ahead.
Yeah, weight of pledges, heavy debts. Because as I said at the beginning of the lesson, all right, America is in $15 trillion in debt, which is way more than that. All right, so there's like they did a poll and they said that pretty much if all Americans, pretty much tried to pay back their so-called debt, that still wouldn't be enough to bring America out of the hole.
Nope.
That's why you're seeing stupid shit talking about the IRS is giving people the option to pay back the debt with like Venmo and PayPal and shit. Which anybody that does that is an idiot because that's not going to do nothing. They're just taking your money. But
Right.
it's just to show you how far America has fallen, man.
Mm-hmm.
I got one for you real quick.
Go ahead.
It's Isaiah 14:11. Thy pomp is brought down to the grave, and the noise of thy vials. The worm is spread under thee, and the worms cover thee. So just going into that decay, right? The system being rooted or built upon this debt system is starting to come back to bite them, man.
Great point.
If I could land back on that point as well, because one thing that's like a growing concern right now is the bond market. Because the bond market, all of these, bonds are starting to reach the point of maturity and they're coming due. But America is in so much debt that they're going to have to pretty much just take out more debt to pay on the interest of the debt that they already owed. So it's just to the point where America is at a point where there's no return. Right? There is this idea of make America great again and, trying to revitalize and, bring back that stoic, so to speak, superpower dominance that it once had. That shit ain't never going to happen.
No. Too far gone.
Too far gone.
Sure. Here you go.
Most iconic warning. It's the British Empire that most clearly parallels the structural consequences of outsourcing domestic strength in pursuit of global control. After becoming the first nation in history to undergo large-scale industrialization in the 18th century, producing over 2/3 of the world's coal, half of its iron, and 40% of its steel, Britain used this economic dominance and its unmatched naval power to construct undersea cables for a global telegraphic network, opening its financial markets to easier flows of foreign capital. For between 1865 and 1914, British investors poured as much money into the infrastructure of Africa, Asia, and Latin America as they did into the United Kingdom itself, resulting in overseas ventures consistently delivering higher returns than domestic enterprises, allowing Britain's elite to profit immensely, while the working class experienced little to no upward mobility. Where William Kennedy of the London School of Economics estimated that redirecting even a fraction of Britain's foreign investment back into domestic manufacturing could have increased national income by 25 to 50%, potentially creating the kind of middle-class growth the United States experienced after World War II. But instead, as financial institutions and overseas profits were prioritized, local industries decayed, wages stagnated, and working-class neighborhoods across northern England fell into long-term decline. And while Britain poured its limited domestic resources into defending a sprawling empire, the United States, benefiting from geographic insulation and cultural isolation, strengthened its industrial base and delayed entry into global conflicts, where two world wars country.
You
So
muted
your
the
mic
ball.
got cut off.
All right, can you hear me?
You hear you now.
Yeah. Just go ahead. Do you got the link?
Con, I'm pulling it up right now.
Okay, yeah. Start at 6:55 because it always does that lagging in the middle of the lesson.
Con.
And I'll go ahead and exit out the screen. Bear with us. We're gonna just pull it up. But these are all solid points that are being brought out. All right. There's no denying the comparison of ancient Rome and now, you know.
John, I got it in the background. Look one.
Okay, I got you. You got it?
From geographic insulation and cultural isolationism, strengthened its industrial base and delayed entry into global conflicts, where two world wars not only drained Britain's treasury, but physically devastated its already limited manufacturing core, further reducing its capacity for post-war recovery. And as industrial towns collapsed under privatization, foreign competition, and cultural neglect, Britain fundamentally shifted towards a service-based economy, handing the keys of industrial dominance to America and signaling the long-term consequences of an empire that abandons its working class. As global power shifted in the post-war era, it was the American factory worker who became the symbol of national strength. From Detroit's factories producing over 60% of the world's automobiles to Pennsylvania mills outproducing Germany and Japan combined, blue-collar labor powered the U.S. economy and built the infrastructure that defined American ingenuity. But in the pursuit of containing communism, the Korean War redirected billions of dollars.
Yeah, so everything that's been played in this segment thus far, this is what these Edomites are talking about as well. When they try to make America great again, build back better, they're talking about America going back to this, you know, that industrial, you know, everything made from America, American-made products, all that shit, you know, putting America at first, and you know, that's the spirit they're talking about. You got
right. And the question you got to ask is, where was Jake during this time?
Yep. You got it.
And special procurement contracts to Japan, turning it into a supply base for U.S. forces and jumpstarting its industrial recovery. And rather than reinforcing its own industrial foundation, Cold War tensions and the growing obsession with corporate cost-cutting led the United States to gradually abandon it, trading national resilience for geopolitical leverage and corporate efficiency, while Japan emerged as the world's second-largest free market economy by 1968. And by the late 1970s, following President Jimmy Carter to source from
Go back and share this.
Reduction of tariffs on Chinese imports,
audio?
American companies had an even greater.
You hear?
You hear audio?
Yep.
Salakia. I don't know how that shares.
It does that, you know. It does that, man.
It's technology bugged out.
Man.
From or produce overseas, shifting the national mentality that American jobs were no longer foundational assets, but disposable costs to be minimized. As worsening economic inequality and civil divide began tearing apart the nation, Reagan's promise of restoring America to its former greatness created the perception of change, despite increased government debt, a total reduction of social safety nets, and more than 1.6 million American jobs being outsourced overseas, placing even further downward pressure on domestic job quality. And after decades of industrial decline, the 1990s marked the most substantial transformation of the post-war economic structure under President Bill Clinton, where trade agreements like NAFTA and the establishment of permanent normal trade relations with China fundamentally opened U.S. markets to aggressive import competition, where between 1994 and 2001, over 879,000 American jobs were officially certified as lost to direct trade competition under the U.S. government's Trade Adjustment Assistance Program, with some economists estimating that the real number was likely 2 to 3 times higher, gutting areas like Detroit, which fell from one of the wealthiest cities in the world to one of the poorest in the United States, with a poverty rate of 31.5%. And as U.S. further embraced globalization and cost-cutting strategies, it once again followed the same pattern that has defined the collapse of every major empire, where today, China stands as the world's sole manufacturing superpower, accounting for 35% of global gross production, or more than the next 9 largest manufacturers combined. And while the United States is taking drastic efforts to reignite its industrial base in an attempt to preserve global leadership, it's being forced to do so on top of a corporate infrastructure designed solely to maximize short-term efficiency at the lowest possible cost, signaling that while domestic manufacturing is essential to long-term prosperity, it must now operate within the very mindset that dismantled it. And with virtually no internal investment or national job training pipeline, American manufacturing is projected to face more than 2 million unfilled jobs by 2030, a labor gap that could cost as much as $1 trillion annually, all while the U.S. is simultaneously facing an infrastructure disaster. According to the 2025 report card for America's infrastructure, if current funding levels remain unchanged, the country will face a $3.7 trillion shortfall by 2030. But if we include dams, levees, hazardous and solid.
Yeah, so just real quick on that point, Elder Apostle Gabar, he did a lesson years ago going into America's infrastructure, and they had like all the grades of the roads, the cities, the bridges, all them shits was like D's and F's. So that ties into what you brought out earlier, Kwame Wolf, in Isaiah 14 about how the worms cover this place, right? This place is literally falling apart. It's decaying. It's rotting away, right? The money is not going towards the infrastructure, the bridges, the roads. You know, certain cities, especially up north, them roads are fucked up, man. You go up to like Ohio, Michigan, up in fucking Philadelphia, New York. Them roads are trash up there, man. So you see all the money right now is really put into this war that's getting ready to start, you know. But I just wanted to add on to that point.
Because it's like dealing with another word you can use for that is corrosion.
Yeah, there you go. Yep. Corrosion.
Go back.
Waste systems, parks, and schools, the number rises to 4.4 trillion. However, unlike the transition of power from the British Empire, where America
I want
was
to read a definition for that real quick. Just dealing with that corrosion. I put this in the AI overview dealing with corrosion in society. It says corrosion has a significant impact on society, affecting infrastructures, the environment, and even human health. It leads to infrastructure damage, environmental contamination, and financial burdens. Furthermore, corrosion can contribute to catastrophic failure, causing injury and death, and impacting technological advancements. But just looking at this in a spiritual sense, this is why, like we read earlier, about there's no healing of thy bruise, because though America has put it on the front as if they're, making things better, you're having these different technological advances and not anything like that. But just like you have dealing with, a physical wound, you could dress it, but if it's not healing properly, it can become affected, and eventually you become septic and you die. That's essentially where America has got. They put the Band-Aid on it, but America has been septic for years, so this place is just slowly dying, man.
That's it. Good point.
And Priest, if I could, just land back on that point, the scriptures speak about how that deadly wound was healed.
Right.
And, comparing the parallels between ancient Rome, how it went down and how America is going down, it's clear that that deadly wound that was healed, these Edomites didn't take note of that. They decided to just continue to do the same things that brought about that deadly wound. But this time, there's no healing of that bruise. This is the final blow.
Because just out of what you said, it's Jeremiah 51:8. It says, Babylon is suddenly fallen and destroyed. How for her, take balm for her pain, if so she may be healed. And as we read earlier, to bring that again for that point, we would have healed Babylon, but she is not healed. Forsake her and let us go, everyone into his own country, for her judgment reacheth unto heaven and lifts up to the sky. So as we're talking about, they take balm for her pain. America's tried to cover up that wound, but as we're seeing, that wound is opened back up, and it's even more nasty than what it was the first time, man.
Right. Got flesh and bone showing. That nigga tried to put a Band-Aid on that shit.
Yeah, got maggots and shit showing, man.
You got green and shit.
Right.
No, I'm straight. No, you ain't, nigga.
I got a quick precept for you real quick. It's Isaiah 47:7. And thou sayest, thou shalt be a lady forever, so that thou didst not lay these things to thy heart, neither didst remember the latter end of it. So they're not looking at the consequences that befell, right, the Roman Empire, right? They're not, drawing the parallels to what happened to them, right? Because they think they've overcome this wound, right? They think they've healed themselves, man.
Yep. I'll go ahead and continue forward in the video.
4.4 trillion. However, unlike the transition of power from the British Empire, where America was economically and culturally primed to take the mantle, China faces a number of structural challenges, with the first one being that it's already shifting away from manufacturing and towards a service-based economy, as rising labor costs have eroded one of the key advantages that once made China an attractive hub for global production, where simultaneously, its population is declining at an unprecedented rate. As a consequence of the one-child policy, 1 in 4 Chinese citizens will be over the age of 60 by 2030. By 2050, that figure is expected to reach 40%, placing an even greater strain on retirement and healthcare systems than what the United States is projected to face. And when factoring in hidden liabilities, estimates place China's true government debt ratio at 117%, just 7% below that of the United States. And similar to how economists once predicted that Japan would surpass the US by the year 2000, similar forecasts made in 2008 that China would overtake the US by this year have now been pushed to the 2040s, with growing doubts that it will actually happen at all, signaling that unless the United States faces a severe economic or global catastrophe, it remains on a trajectory far more reflective of Rome's bread and circuses, where collapse no longer arrives in the form of burning cities or toppled statues, but through an abandoned workforce, broken trust, and a generation that no longer sees a future worth building. Because throughout American history, the nation has fundamentally relied on outside enemies to inspire internal unity. But as the country has become so ideologically twisted, it's now collapsing inward, where the enemy.
Can I get a quick precept on that?
Yeah.
Because you just saw that propaganda, right? You saw his utilization of that media to really create a storm, to have a sense of justification in what it is that he's done. But now we're seeing in this time of truth being declared, it's becoming blatant that this devil is a liar, right? And that a lot of these things that he's, tried to rally the people behind was nothing but bullshit. This is Psalms chapter 64 and verse 8. It says, "So they shall make their own tongue to fall upon themselves. All that see them shall flee away." Right? So as we're seeing this devil, his tongue is falling on himself, right? Because all of the things that he's done over years is coming to be shown that it was nothing but lies and deceptions. You even have these whistleblowers that are coming out telling you that all of these things, this propaganda that was being stirred up, over the past couple of decades, whether that be the war in Iraq, Vietnam War, the war on drugs, all of these various different quote unquote wars that Esau was like had been discussed in the beginning of this video, the endless wars that were pretty much being pushed so that Esau can maintain his dominance. We're now in that age of truth where it's being shown that it was nothing but lies, man.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
But as the country has become so ideologically twisted, it's now collapsing inward, where the enemy is anyone who doesn't align with one's personal beliefs. Republican fingers point downward at those deemed responsible for social and economic decay, while Democratic fingers point upward at the elite, blind to the fact that their beloved politicians are also seated at the table of greed, where decades of policy failure and the complete loss of social cohesion have not only bankrupted emerging generations, but their children as well. We prioritize the intricacies of AI and Apple's latest phone release, while nearly 50 million children remain trapped in an education system completely unprepared for the demands of the future, facing lower reading scores than in 1971, and with just 56% of fourth graders actually performing at grade levels in math. We blame minimum wage for rising prices, despite CEO stock-based compensation soaring 1,460%, while hourly wages have grown by just 17.5%. We worship media figures who selectively weaponize data to fit their own narrative, while they avoid the fact that homelessness has surged by 30% in just 3 years, and that childhood poverty has nearly doubled since 2022. Millennials and Gen Z are cast as society's scapegoat despite living through the most unaffordable housing market in American history, all while holding just a fraction of the wealth their parents had. And yet we wonder why national pride has collapsed from 85% to 18% in just the last decade, as we continue to plunge into endless wars.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
That's Isaiah 19, Egyptian versus Egyptian. And it says that the spirit of Egypt will fail in the midst thereof, man. All this stuff he's talking about all ties into the corrosion of this society, man.
All right. This led to that lesson you did yesterday dealing with that how the world has American fatigue. Well, the people here have American fatigue because, as it may mention, this place has gotten so bad to where it's not these people don't even feel like it's worth living now, man. It's a trend. Adiyas Mama posted up where you got people asking for a meteor to come and destroy this place, man. Like, it's that bad now. People are literally whisking for death, man. Like this shit is terrible. I got a precept. This is Isaiah 24:7. It says the new wine. No, I'm going up. Verse 4. So like you, Isaiah 24:4. The earth mourneth and fadeth away. The world languisheth and fadeth away. The haughty people of the earth do languish, because you see the people, they're in a state of pretty much languishing because of the way that these elites have used America to destroy, everything, man. So now this country has gotten so bad to where the people are literally wishing for death, man. This is where we at.
Mm-hmm.
You got it out.
Utter political filth, all while the very fabric of society has been torn apart since 2020, leaving the future to appear as one only defined by greed, disillusionment, and further chaos. And while the public has been trained to remain passive, we've forgotten that what actually made America great was the collective pursuit of a better tomorrow. It was the everyday Americans who chose to stand up for what they believed was right, not through the cowardice of violence, but through the strength of unity, pursuing hope rather than hate. As it wasn't elected officials who ended the working class living in slums, it was Jacob Riis, a photographer who exposed the horrors of tenement housing and how the other half lives, prompting New York to pass a landmark housing reform in 1890. The promise of draining the swamp was fulfilled not by politicians, but by Lincoln Steffens, a journalist who exposed municipal corruption in Tweed days in St. Louis, launching a national muckraking movement in 1902. The reason you were able to actually have a childhood wasn't because of industry or government suddenly finding empathy. It was because of Carmela Tioli, a 13-year-old girl who, despite having her scalp torn off in a cotton machine, still testified before Helen Taft, which ignited a national child labor reform movement in 1912. And the monopolies of the Gilded Age didn't just collapse out of hopeful thinking, they were broken by Ida Tarbell, who spent years exposing John D. Rockefeller's empire, leading to the dissolution of Standard Oil, signaling that while the American empire may live on as a global shell company, for it to actually become great again, it must be rebuilt in the service of future generations, demanding that we find hope in one another and use whatever strength we have left to redefine what it truly means to be an American. And while I am so unbelievably grateful to be in the position to receive such kind and loving and thoughtful comments from each and every one of you, it is important that we recognize that despite this being a one-man operation, anytime I am asked about how is the channel doing, I always respond with we. And while I am the one that is sitting in front of the camera, writing the scripts, doing the research, editing the videos, I fundamentally believe that you are a part of this journey too, that we are in this pursuit of a better tomorrow together. I don't see the point of having success by myself, or that this is some heroic journey on my part. I am no different than you. I get nervous before each one of my videos. I have to go through this whole process just before I film to make sure that I'm in the right mental state. Anytime I'm going to go meet someone, I'm in a long car ride, I'm thinking in my head, should I shake their hand or give them a hug? And whenever I'm at a restaurant and the waiter says, enjoy your meal, I say, you too. And I think it's important that we recognize that while there might be individuals that we aspire to be like, that we can't hold them in this like heroic light, and that we recognize that we have to begin pursuing a unified and collective pursuit for a better tomorrow. I think it is so important that
Zaquan, it's like you had just quoted in Isaiah the 19th chapter, Egyptian against Egyptian. See, the mindset of what Yahweh Shemal Shai has planned for these people, they can't conceptualize, nor do they understand the severity of the times and seasons that we are in. This thing is being set up right now to where there is going to be civil war. People are going to stand up against one another, and they're going to go toe to toe with weaponry, invading one another's homes because of how gruesome it's going to get. Talking about the little bit of strength that America has, we have to all collectively muster that together. Niggas is trying to fend for themselves. They're trying to muster enough strength for their own household.
That's right.
It's a dog eat dog world, and it's predicated by the rulership, man.
Yeah, that's the inward thought, man. They think that they can actually pull it off, that they can actually heal this place, right? I got one scripture, and that'll be it. You don't got to play the rest of the video. He just ran, but the point was made. Let's get Job 25 through Job chapter 20 verse 5 down to 9, and that's all I got, man. I just wanted to make those points in this session.
I got it. So Job, I got Job chapter 20 and verse 5. It says the triumphing of the wicked is short, and the joy of the hypocrite but for a moment. Though his excellency mount up to the heavens, and his head reach unto the clouds, yet he shall perish forever like his own dung. They which have seen him shall say, where is he?
Yeah, America's glory days are done, man. Despite how these Edomites may feel, may speak. All right, it's already been sanctioned in the heavens that Babylon is going to be the last, heathen empire to fall.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is it. There is no China next, no Russia next, right? Israel is next. Esau is the end of the world. Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that follows, man. You can't disannul it. You can't change it, right?
That's right.
It's prophecy. Go ahead.
Verse 8, he shall fly away as a dream and shall not be found, yet he shall be chased away as a vision of the night. The eye also which saw him shall see him no more, neither shall his place any more behold him.
Yeah, this is it, man. This is the last hurrah for the Edomites, man. Really for the heathen in general. All right. It said that it says the eye also which saw him shall see him no more. Right? You're not coming back. It says, neither shall his place any more behold. So this is it, man. This Greco-Roman Empire system is about to be thrown down by Yahweh Shemel Shai, man.
That's right.
Okay. Daniel, the 2nd chapter, we're at the feet of the statue, man. The miry clay, right? So in that stone that was cut out with our hands represents Yahweh Shai that's going to smite the feet.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The feet represent the end of the body. So this is it, man. Okay. Esau and all the nations are about to fall. That was it. Whatever those got, that's all I had.
I had something in the AI overview because the dude had mentioned, he said pretty much, to everybody to band together or something like that. But it says, what made America great? It says America's greatness stems from a combination of factors, including its founding principles, economic strength, and innovative spirit, in which pretty much right now we're in a time period of the moral decay. It says economic strength, which, the dollar doesn't have any purchasing power. It says innovative spirit, the nation's emphasis on individual liberty, religious freedom, and constitutional government, as well as its vast natural resources and entrepreneurial drive have contributed to its success. So that led me to Isaiah, the 19th chapter in the first verse. It says the burden of Egypt, or that word burden goes into a load or a bearing, something it's a doom. So it says the burden of Egypt, behold, the Lord rideth upon a swift cloud and shall come into Egypt, and the idols of Egypt shall be moved at his presence, in which, the idols essentially represents the things that we just read, the economic strength, the founding principles, the innovative spirit, the religious freedom, the individual liberty, and the constitutional government. Because pretty much they've done away with the Constitution. That's pretty much null and void.
Right.
But it says, and the idols of Egypt shall be moved at his presence, and the heart of Egypt shall melt in the midst of it. And I want to get this word for melt. And it says masas, and it says to dissolve, to melt. It says to faint, to grow fearful. It says to discourage, and it says with fatigue. Pretty much going into how we mentioned we said priest American fatigue.
Yep.
Yep. So pretty much people are pretty much fatigued with the mindset and the lifestyle of America, Babylon the Great. But it says to liquefy. It says figuratively to waste. So essentially that everything that made America what it was is dissolving away, it's melting away. It's no longer here. And that essentially represents the initiation of the destruction of this place.
Yeah, the spirit is dead. I got one more. We'll wrap it up. I forgot to bring this out earlier. I got it right here in front of me. I'll read it. This is Revelation 6. In verse 6, it says, and I heard a voice in the midst of the four beasts say, a measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley for a penny. It says, and see thou hurt not the oil and wine. So that measure of wheat for a penny is pretty much, when you go into that word penny, it goes into a day's wages of work. All right. Because at one point in time, back in the ancient Roman Empire, the money did have, value before they debased the currency, man. They started devaluing the money. What was it called? The denarius. You see? So it was the same thing when America took away the gold standard from the money, right? This is why everything is fucking so expensive, but you hardly have any items, right? So the money, the basically the purchasing power of the dollar is not the same as it used to be. Okay, your wages at work don't cover your daily life expenses, the bills, grocery, whatever. This is why I did the lesson yesterday of what crash out season, man. People are like, yo, what the fuck is the point of even working, man? It's the same rat race over and over again. I make the check, it get all, I pay my bills, and I'm left with nothing, and I gotta wait another 2 weeks to get a check.
Yep.
People are tired of that shit, man. But that's pretty much what happened then and what's happening now, right? Just wanted to make that point. That's all I had. Bro's got anything else? We can close it out.
That was it.
Hey, well, look, Predator saw, this GMS Charlotte midweek session was edifying. All right, we're going to close it out by giving all the praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh. Hey, double honors to the apostles and elders, a great millstone who taught us the truth. Shalom to the hopeful elect. Till next time, make shalom.
Shalom.
Shalom. Yes, sir.